This is a significant trend that we're seeing in the marketplace. Companies are saying closing deals is getting harder. So the question is why? Like, what are we seeing?
We have a really exciting announcement for all of our viewers and listeners out there. The new book, Endless Customers by Marcus Sheridan and the team here at Impact, comes out in April of 2025, which is really exciting. But you know what's more exciting? You can go right now, today, to endlesscustomers.com and pre-order your copy. And if you do so, there's all sorts of great bonus content that you're going to get that you wouldn't normally get if you don't pre-order. So again, go to endlesscustomers.com and pre-order your copy today so you can learn how to earn trust and win more business in the age of AI. Welcome back to Endless Customers. I'm your host, Alex Winter, and today we are joined by a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, and a partner here at Impact, Marcus Sheridan.
Here we go.
Here we go.
It's the band is back together, Alexei.
It's great to see you. The band's back together. We got a lot of ground to cover today. Really exciting conversation that I just can't wait to unpack. So I'm going to just dive right in. I hope that's okay with you, Marcus.
Yeah. It's an important conversation too. So yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So you've worked with businesses across all sorts of industries, B2B, B2C, and we keep hearing that many feel like they're acquiring new customers is just harder than ever before. So why are these companies struggling to win new customers right now in today's market?
Yeah, there's some like first, second, and third order effects going on here. This is a significant trend that we're seeing in the marketplace. Companies are saying closing deals is getting harder. So the question is why? Like, what are we seeing? One of the things that we're seeing a lot of, especially in the B2B space, it's taking longer for decision makers to actually make decisions. So if you're listening to this right now, you're probably thinking to yourself, yep, that's definitely something we've been seeing. So stalled deals is a problem. We're seeing a lot of companies that are just struggling with website traffic. And there's some reasons for that we can talk about that. But website traffic going down because of AI, because of Google, and amongst other things. This leads to less lead generation. That's problematic. And I think, of course, you've got your standards of the competition is getting more fierce right now because people are really hungry. And so now you're seeing some pricing wars. So this is a problem. And then, if you just look at the marketing side, forever these companies, many of them have been outsourcing to, let's say, an agency. And I'm just going to be really frank in saying that business model of working with traditional marketing agencies is becoming less and less effective. There's a lot of reasons for that, Alex, that we can discuss. But those that are owning their marketing are dramatically more effective across the board than those that are outsourcing. The problem is most are currently outsourcing. And then we just have the problem of a lot of these brands just aren't known, right? It's like they don't know who you are. And the reason why they don't know who you are, other than what we've been discussing, is because there's so much dang noise out there. It's getting really, really hard to get found and build that known and trusted brand, which is the key to everything in business. So there's more than that, but those are some of the fundamental trends that we're seeing, Alex, and it's affecting a lot of businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's something that we see and hear consistently here at Impact and on the streets. And I'm just curious too, if we could talk a little bit further and just dive deeper into like some of these frustrations, because so many companies are experiencing these. What's changing with buyers in the digital landscape that's contributing to this with AI and all these new technologies coming out? Like the landscape's shifting pretty dramatically.
Yeah, well, that's the big one. I mean, listen, if you go to Google right now, you do a search, it takes you, feels like 5 minutes just to get down to what used to be known as organic search results.
So true.
I mean, you've got this huge AI answer, and then you have related questions, and and then you've got some junk from like Reddit or whatever. You've got so many things before you actually see organic search results. And so that's one reason why a lot of folks are seeing this dip in traffic. In conjunction with that, you've got this whole zero-click phenomena that's happening where used to be that we had to click on that blue link to get the answer by going to the website. Now we can get the answer. We don't have to go anywhere other than just use AI. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
And when you go past that, let's just look at how buyers have changed for a second. I mean, this continues to evolve since, circa 1995, 96, when we really started using the internet, good old days. And what we know is that each year that passes by, we become more impatient online, Alex, and we are more demanding and we get more frustrated when we can't get what we want. This is why we know the average buyer is more than 80% through the buyer's journey by the time they reach out to a company because they have done their research and they are very informed. It's like we're all infovores at this point, and we want to be fed. And if you don't feed me, well, then we're moving on, right?
So true. Yep.
And along with this like control thing, we know that we want to be in charge, which means self-service is now a huge deal. Self-service means that I can go to a website and not be forced to talk to a salesperson just to do that thing. I don't have to schedule a time to watch a demo video that I could have just watched that was already on your website. Like
Totally.
that type of experience is what we're demanding. So we want to feel like we are in charge. Self-service is going to be a huge one going forward. And I have to say this just because, I'm known as a content guy and we've been helping companies tell their story for years now. Most content stinks. It's just not very good. It's not very good for a lot of different reasons, but fundamentally, we're not very good storytellers in the market. Most people lack this ability, this skill, better stated, to tell great stories. A lot of the content is bland, doesn't have opinions, it's not disruptive, it's pretty soulless. And so I think the bar has gone way down with content, but that means too, Alex, there's tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, there's huge amounts of opportunity. And I think that there's a lot of potential in unpacking some of what you said and really trying to tell stories in a meaningful way and connect with your audiences. So with that in mind, what should companies do who are seeing these changes and they're struggling to try to win new customers because of it, especially those that like we just said that are traditionally relying on like SEO and inbound marketing tactics and things that seem to be a thing of the past nowadays?
Yeah. Well, I would say there's one mindset that every business today has to have if they want to be successful, they want to be built to last. And it's going to sound really simple. It is, but it's incredibly true. We're going to dig into it. And that is, as an organization, whatever your organization is, we must become a known and trusted brand. A known and trusted brand. People don't know us. We're like the billboard in the desert, right? Pretty worthless. So that one's a given. But at the same time, we need to become incredibly trusted. We can't do business like everybody else. We have this huge trust deficit that exists in the world today. Big problem. And so because of that, businesses need to send out these signals that, hey, you can trust us. And the thing about that is, Alex, and this is very, very important, because a lot of people get mixed up in terms of their marketing strategy today based on the platform of the week. But if I said to you, is trust going to be fundamental to your business in 10, 20 years, what would you say, Alex?
Yes, without a pause. Yes.
100%, right? It's
100%.
like this is a no doubt. Whereas if I said to you, are you sure that Google is going to be fundamental to your business in 10 or 20 years? What would you say?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
You're not sure.
Yeah.
The reason why you're not sure is because Google's a platform. Platforms come and go.
Right.
Trust is a principle. It doesn't come, it doesn't go. I mean, it is going to be a fundamental part of your business for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you say, okay, we're going to build our entire sales and marketing strategy around this singular principle that we all have in common. See, it doesn't matter if you're B2B, B2C, service product, local, national. It doesn't matter. If you're listening to this right now, you're in the business of trust. And that's why my next book, Endless Customers, which of course we're talking about today, its entire purpose is to help you become a known and trusted brand. If you achieve that, you are going to be built to last. And that's why, as we are talking today, and you asked me some questions, which I'm going to make some suggestions to your audience, Alex, that they're going to be like, what? I don't know if we can do that. Well, when you feel that pushback, you need to first say to yourself, yeah, but if I did do this thing that Marcus is suggesting right now, would it help induce more trust? Would it help us become a more known and trusted brand? If the answer is yes, then we just got to figure out how. And of course, that's why I'm here too. I'm going to help you figure out how. But that's the key, Alex. Become a known and trusted brand.
I love it, Marcus. And fundamentally, it's trust. Trust isn't going anywhere. I love that point that you just made. Some of these platforms may come and go, but trust is a pillar, which is a great segue, because my next question here, when we talk about becoming a trusted brand, your B2B, your B2C, whatever your business is, and you want to be that trusted voice in your space, how do they do that? And what are some things that they can really take from this conversation and implement in their business?
Yeah. So speaking of pillars, and I'm really glad you're asking this question, because what we teach in Endless Customers that there's essentially 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. And really, entire book is built upon these 4 pillars. And as I'm talking about these 4 pillars, first you're going to hear them, you're going to say, that's not a very big deal. That's obvious.
Okay.
But then if you do a self-audit, you're going to say to yourself, I don't know if we're doing that. So here's the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. All right. Number
Sounds
1,
good.
you gotta be willing to talk about online what others in your space are not willing to talk about. And when I say others, we're talking about the majority of your competitors. Okay. So number 1, you gotta be willing to talk about what others in your space are not willing to talk about. Well, I'm sure we'll give some of those examples here in a minute. Number 2, you gotta be willing to show through video what others in your space are not willing to show. Think, what are you showing right now with video that pretty much none of your competitors are showing? All right, that's number 2. Number 3, you got to be willing to sell in a way that others in your space aren't willing to sell. A lot of people think they've got a very unique sales process, and what we find is they do not. All right, so you got to be willing to talk about what others aren't willing to talk about. You got to be willing to show what others aren't willing to show through video. You got to be willing to sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. And then finally, number 4, Alex, this is really important with this huge movement of AI and technology. And that is, you've got to be, process of doing the first 3, more human than others are willing to be. They need to feel like your business has a soul, has real people behind it. And if you do these 4 things, you will become a known and trusted brand. That's the 4 pillars.
I love it, Marcus. There's beauty in its simplicity, and I think we should definitely dive deeper into each of these pillars. So can we do exactly that and just start with pillar number 1 and get a little bit more into the weeds of what that translates into for business owners?
Yeah. So when we look at talk about what others are not willing to talk about, if anybody's ever heard me speak before or read They Ask You Answer, which the reason is the Endless Customers is called They Ask You Answer 3.0. And that's because we've had for years this beautiful framework that companies have been using to become more known and trusted. But we knew, because of all that's changed with AI and with buyers, that we had to do a new iteration, and it had to be built to last, at least for the next decade, right?
Right.
And so that's why we came out with Endless Customers. But what hasn't changed between the two books, so there's a lot of differences, but one thing that's still incredibly true, as much today as it was when I started talking about these subjects over 10 years ago, and that is, if you want to talk about what others are willing to talk about, it starts with what we call the Big 5. And the Big 5 are the 5 subjects that every buyer wants to know, wants to research, wants to read about on your website, wants to learn about on your YouTube page, on your social media. These are the 5 things that they want to research, want to learn, want to know before they reach out to you.
Okay.
And they are, number 1, cost. We want to understand, how much is it going to cost?
Of course.
They want to get a sense for pricing.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, they want to understand what we call problems or fears or negatives. Whenever you think about buying something, Alex, you start to get fearful, and there's concerns that pop up, objections, if you will. Okay,
Sure.
So we call those problems. So the first of the Big 5 is cost. Second is problems. The third is comparisons or versus. We love to compare stuff online. That's because we love to stack stuff against each other.
Totally.
Okay, so you've done it a million times, I'm sure, so have your listeners. So we got cost questions, we got problems, we've got comparisons. Number 4, we got reviews. We love reviews. You love reviews, Alex. Everybody loves reviews. Thing is, you don't just want the good reviews. You also want what, Alex?
I want the bad ones. I go straight to those 1 stars.
That's right. You want the good, you want the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's right.
Most companies aren't willing to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but the ones that want to drive the most trust, they do it. And then finally, number 5 of the Big 5 is best. Best, most, top. Think about how many times you've gone online and you've searched best plus another phrase or top or whatever, anything that's extreme.
Sure.
So cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, best. Those are the big five. Buyers are obsessed with them. And here's what's crazy, Alex. Businesses don't like to talk about them online. And so this creates this paradox of wants, not good if you want to become a known and trusted brand.
Yeah, it makes sense. You got to meet people where they are. And if people want this information, it sounds like you should just be giving it to them. So pretty crazy that they're not doing it. You'd think that more people would be doing this.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's, these, like they say, common sense is very uncommon. And you see that a lot with the way businesses bring their brand to the market, especially with the way they ignore these fundamental, questions, worries, concerns,
yeah,
and just general behaviors that buyers have.
Yeah. So I have to pick your brain. We're going a little off script here. I know we're going to get to the second pillar in a second, but before we do that, you had mentioned cost and price. And in the first pillar, and that a lot of people don't talk about their cost and their price openly. Can we explore that a little bit? Because I also find that surprising and also frustrating as a consumer when I can't find what I want to find.
I've been talking about this for years, well over a decade, and it's crazy. The number one content that we've seen over the years that drives the most leads and sales across the board tends to be cost-based content. And as soon as I say this, though, you got listeners that are saying, but there's no way I could talk about the cost of my product, the cost of my service. Okay. So just think about your own behavior. When you're on a website and you're looking for cost and price information, you can't find it. What do? You get frustrated. Yeah. Do you call them? No. You just keep searching until you find what you're looking for. Like you find an answer. And generally speaking, whoever's willing to give you that answer online, or at least give you a sense for how much you're going to spend online, that's who you're going to give your trust to. That's who you're most likely to reach out to, right? And so even though this is true, and fundamentally almost everyone agrees this, they say, but we can't do that. And the reason is, we talk extensively in Endless Customers about all the reasons or excuses that we make up as to why we can't talk about cost and price. But the three majors is, number one, we say, well, every job is different. It's bespoke. It's a customized solution. That one's really crazy. Because if I said to you, Alex, or anybody that's listening, can you help me understand what drives the cost of your product or service up? You'd say, sure.
Yeah.
If I said, can you help me understand what drives the cost down? You'd say, sure. Mm-hmm. You could explain it. If I said, can you help me understand why some companies are more expensive, why some companies are less expensive? You'd say, sure.
Yeah.
And if I said, can you help me at least get a sense for how much you charge, just roughly? You'd say, yes. And of course, everybody has asked or answered this question before. Like anybody that's in sales has answered this question before. But sadly, oftentimes we don't answer that, the why it depends, until we're asked. The problem is people want to know this early in the buying experience, mm-hmm. right? And so when it comes to this first reason why, it depends, that's essential that you explain these things. And that's how you essentially build value prop in the market, is by explaining what value looks like. Second reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price is we say, oh, my competitors are going to find out, which is really silly, right? Because if I asked you, what do your competitors charge? You probably have a pretty good sense, which means they've got a good sense as to what you charge.
Yeah, right.
It's not a big secret. And so it's ridiculous that we allow the competition to stand between us in this thing that you and I call trust. Mm-hmm. And then the third reason why companies don't talk about cost and price is they say, well, we tend to be more expensive, and if we're more expensive, we just might scare them away. But what we've seen time and time again in your behavior and mine and everybody that's listening to this, what doesn't scare us is when a company educates us really well and explains value in the marketplace. What scares us is when they just ignore the subject, Alex. That's what scares us.
Yeah.
And so if you understand this, you're like, okay, well then how do I talk about cost and price? You do exactly what I just said. You create content, articles, videos, etc. on your website. You can do this on social, YouTube, etc. that explain 5 things: what drives cost up, what drives cost down, why some companies are so expensive, why some companies are so cheap, and then roughly where you fall. Now, here's what's really cool. In the book, we've got this awesome list that's called the perfect pricing page. And it goes deeper than those 5, but those 5 are the majors. Mm-hmm. If you do this, you're going to be the 1% of your industry that has explained it well. You're now a thought leader, right? And that's what makes people and AI say, that's who I trust. That's who I recommend. And that's the type of content you got to be doing. And that's how you've got to be saying things that others aren't willing to say.
All right, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think you're making some really excellent points. And I'm curious now to jump back into the next pillar number 2. What does that entail? And can we talk a little further about what that looks like?
Yeah, show what others aren't willing to show. Video is blowing up. And if you are listening to this and have a teenager, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? We have a true explosion of this media. And in fact, just last year alone, over 80% of all time spent online was with video. Think about that, Alex. Now, do you think that number is going down? It's only going to go up.
Wow.
And also, here's what's interesting. We talked earlier about the trends with AI and how traditional Google search traffic is going down. Do you know what search traffic is not going down because of AI? It's YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
And this is why YouTube, whereas I might say stock down Google search long term, certainly YouTube and YouTube search very much stock up.
Okay.
And this includes shorts form video, long form video, all types of video. This is why most podcasters now are moving towards also doing it on this medium. People want to see the thing more than any other time. It's like we want to feel like we are there with them, because this is what helps us to see them and get to know them and to trust them. Now, in the book, in Endless Customers, once you say, all right, we see this mega trend of video, we see that YouTube is huge, we need to make sure that we're leveraging video as much as possible. Now, all this means, Alex, that we've got to start to see ourselves as a media company. So as we're talking about producing this written content, producing this visual content, we need to say as an organization, everything we do, I don't care if you're a boring accountant company, I don't care if you're a B2B, a B2C, it doesn't matter. You have a story that the market needs to hear and needs to see. And that's what video allows you to do. This is why you need to think like a media company. Now, as you do this, you say, all right, Marcus, I'll play. So what type of video content should we be producing? What's great about Endless Customers is you're going to see that it's an entire system, much like EOS. But within that system, you have all these micro frameworks. And one of the frameworks that we talk about in there is what's called the Selling 7. The Selling 7 are the 7 types of videos that we know resonate the most in terms of helping you produce more leads and more sales. And we don't have time to talk about them all, but I'll just mention just one right here really quick, just one really fast one.
Okay.
And that is landing page videos. So we talk about in the book how when you have a landing page, this is any page of your site that somebody could fill out a form. Okay. Now, when somebody fills out a form, you're asking them for their information. They have certain fears, don't they, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the fears, there's 4 majors. The major fears are, okay, so are you going to call me to death? Are you going to spam me to death? What are you going to do with my information?
Right.
And what exactly is this process going to look like if I fill out this form?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's what's crazy. We have found, and we've experimented with this over and over again with our clients, that if somebody puts a video next to that form on their website, generally speaking, assuming they address these concerns on that video, conversion rates almost double, 80% lift.
Almost
so
double.
Can you imagine
Whoa.
if you doubled the conversion rates of your landing pages on your website over the next year? What type of financial impact would that have on your business? All by addressing these 4 fears. And you can literally start the video something like this. So you're sitting there right now and you're saying to yourself, should I fill out this form? Are these guys going to spam me to death? Are they going to call me to death? Like, what is this process going to look like? Well, relax. We're going to explain that to you right now. And just by doing that, Alex, so much trust. And we said, show what others aren't willing to show. If you're listening to this right now, how many of your competitors have a video next to their forms on their website that explains exactly what's going to happen if they fill out that form? See, nobody has that. And that's what makes it really, really powerful. And that's one of the Selling 7. You can get the rest in the book, but landing page videos are very powerful.
Wow. It sounds really powerful. And listen, doubling down on your conversions, that's... I don't know who would not want that. Any business would want that.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. I'll take that.
I love it. I love it. Let's keep the conversation going. So now we're heading into pillar number 3. What's that look like as we keep moving down these 4 pillars here?
Man, I love this one. Sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. And I said this earlier, Alex. I got to stress it again. Most people think they have a very unique sales process. They definitively do not.
Wow. Okay.
Now, there's a multiplicity of ways that we explain how to do this in the book, going back to those frameworks that I was talking about. But one that I really want to lean into here, which is a mega trend, starts with this stat here from Gartner, and that is 75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. 75% of all buyers say they
Wow.
would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. Now, what does this mean, Alex? Well, it doesn't mean that we hate salespeople. It just means we don't want to talk to a salesperson until we feel ready.
Yeah, it plays back
And
into
we
the
feel
self-selection piece you were talking about earlier. It makes sense.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's the root of this self-service phenomena. And so in Endless Customers, we talk about 5 self-service tools that if you put on your website, you'll see an explosion of not just trust, but of conversions addressing this lead problem that we've been talking about. If you want endless customers, you got to get endless leads. If you want endless leads, you have to have ways to generate those leads. And one of the easiest, most effective ways to do it with your existing website traffic that you're getting right now is through self-service tools. And so I'll mention, I can mention a few here. I can do as many as you want, Alex, but let me just mention a couple of majors.
Okay.
One would be a self-pricing tool. Okay. A self-pricing tool. We already talked about the importance of addressing cost and price.
Yes, we did.
The amount of people that leave your website because they can't get any pricing information at all and address that concern is massive. The number one reason why people leave a website in the world is because they could get no information on pricing. But what do we got? Most people go from them, they come to the site and then they say call for quote, which feels like we've established the middle finger of the internet. So could we do something that's in the middle there? Well, a pricing estimator, self-pricing tool can do that. How does the self-pricing tool work? And we've built a bunch of these for clients at Impact. It's pretty stinking awesome to see it in action. And all it is think about what are the questions that a salesperson would ask someone in order to give them a general price range for their product or service.
Okay.
So could you take those questions and put it on an interactive tool on your website that at the end, by them answering those questions, they're able to get a general price range, satisfying that need of, I just want to know if I'm in the game or not. Because now, as soon as they know that, then they're way more likely to reach out. That's how it works.
Yeah.
We had a company, I got to tell you, wild story. We had a home improvement company that came to us, Alex, and said, listen, the next 3 months is critical to my business. This is when we get about 75% of our leads for the year is the next 3 months because it is a somewhat seasonal business.
Okay.
So I said, what can we do to generate dramatically more leads, not just in 6 months like now? Well, of course, all the stuff we've been talking about is going to help them long term. But the thing that they needed to do now, and as soon as I went to the website, I was like, you all need a pricing estimator. Because if they were willing to give an estimator, an estimate, a range to folks that were coming to their site, I knew that they would just take off. And so what was so cool about it is they said, Marcus, nobody's done this in our space. I'm like, that's right. Nobody's done it. We're going to sell like nobody has sold before. And it starts with giving this estimate up front so they know they're in the game. And I said, and I tell you, your sales conversations are going to be better. So here's what happened. This is the end of the story here, Alex.
Okay.
And that is the previous May, one of their busiest month of the year for leads, they got 200 leads the previous May. Now that previous May was supposed to be a better year across the board, across the industry. And so you would think that they would have gone down the following May. This is the May that they contacted us. Well, with the pricing estimator, they went from 200 leads to, and I kid you not, 700 leads that month.
Whoa. Can you say that one more time? 200 to what?
To 700.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
We're talking 350% increase How about them stinking apples? And it, of course, equated in their case to millions in revenue. And so, they spent, 25 grand on a tool and they made millions in revenue. You want to talk about crazy ROI. That's some magical ROI right there. And so that's the power of self-pricing. And there's others examples. There's self configurator tools is when people can build the thing. And there's self-selection tools when you're helping them make a choice through a series of interactive questions, right? There's self-assessment tools where they can get a score. But these are the future. Self-scheduling where they can immediately schedule time with the salesperson and maybe
Hmm.
even select the salesperson they want to work with. But people want control. This will give it to them. Self-service is going to be a mega trend in your industry. If you're listening to this right now, don't be last. You want to be first.
All right, so Marcus, this brings us on to pillar 4. Let's get into it. What does that look like? And let's break it down a little bit for our audience here.
Yeah, be more human than others are willing to be. Now, on the surface, somebody might listen to this and tilt their head, but this is incredibly important now and moving forward, Alex, because what you're going to see because of AI and because of technology, that people are going to use it for good and they're going to use it for bad. And they're also going to use it in a way that makes their brand less human. And so, if you're listening to this, you need to be the counter to that. You should be using this technology, but it should be done in such a way that makes your brand feel more human. So they see more real people's faces and hear more real voices. And so we can get into what that looks like. And if it's okay with you, I will give you some examples, Alex. And I want to mention too this. When you think about just brands in general, do you think Richard Branson is a more popular brand, or do you think Virgin is a more popular brand?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say Richard Branson.
Yep, it's actually not even close.
Yeah, not
It's by
even.
far.
Hmm.
And that's because we want you to do business with humans. And we've talked throughout this conversation today about the importance of principles. So, this idea of we want to buy from those we know, like, and trust, that's a principle. That has been that way since the beginning of time. That's never going to change. And so this idea of I'm working with a real person, I'm working with a human, I'm working with a team, right? I'm not working just with a bot. This matters, and it's going to matter long term. Okay. So how do you, as an organization, whether you're big or small, humanize your brand more than ever? Well, a few things that you can do. We talk about it in Endless Customers. Let me give you some fast ones. Number one, with your sales team. Most sales teams send out hundreds of emails per month. And most of those, over 95%, are text based. And so, why are we doing this when it's so dang easy to send a one-to-one video as a salesperson today? It's actually faster too, by the way. There's a ton of tools for this. It's free, it's easy. And we train sales teams on how to do this, but it's incredible what happens when a salesperson starts doing more video-based interaction in their communication with cold and warm and known prospects, because now all of a sudden there's just like this different dynamic and they're better understood, they're more efficient, they're creating better relationships. And so this is a no-brainer. Most sales teams are not doing it. And if you're listening to this right now, I can almost guarantee you that your competitors, their sales teams, are not using one-to-one video in their communications. You could immediately stand out, and that would humanize your brand immediately. Okay, so that's one way you can do it.
Yeah, it makes
Another way
sense.
you can do it, as you're becoming more and more of a media company, you're doing more video on YouTube, on social. The whole idea is that we're getting our team on these videos, doing live videos. We're just showing the behind the scenes, right? We've got this one customer that is called Lazy Boy Southeast, and they're so great. They've really just caught the vision of what it is to be a media company, and they're just these prolific now teachers of all things furniture. They answer the good, the bad, and the ugly, and their entire staff of called designers. They assist with this, and one of them, her name is Ellie, real person. She came on board there as a designer. She didn't know that she was going to be doing videos, but this is something that she was asked to do. And she didn't have a lot of confidence at first, but then her confidence started to grow, and she had this natural inclination just to be very warm, trustworthy. She was knowledgeable. To make a long story short, she's done so many videos for them. And now, constantly, they tell us, when people come into the showroom, they will literally say, "Is Ellie here?" Or "Is Ellie from the video here?" She constantly gets that. So
It's
she's
amazing.
like this little influencer within her market. So you can become this micro influencer today within your niche, within your market, but you just got to be willing to put yourself out there more so.
Fascinating.
And now we've got to do the same though with AI. And this is a very relevant conversation. One of the chapters that I debated about putting in the book, but I was like, it has to be here because it's coming. It's coming fast and furious. And that was a chapter in Endless Customers on digital humans. This idea that we're going to now have interactions with people online that look and sound as if you and I were talking on Zoom right now. It's already happening.
Yeah, it is.
If you're listening to this, you have literally watched YouTube videos of a person that you thought was a human, but was a digital human. Let's take it a step further. Imagine for a second, and this is going to this is going to happen this year for my swimming pool company. Imagine you came to River Pools and their digital Marcus introduces himself to you. And so the first thing you see is I pop up on the screen, let's say on the home page where that old boring chat box used to be. I pop up on the screen and I'm waving. It looks just like me. Like, well, this is crazy. And I say to you, welcome to the River Pools website. I'm Digital Marcus. I'm not the real Marcus, but I'm using all the information he's ever produced about pools in his articles and videos. And I'm here to help you now to answer any of your questions. And all you have to do is type your question into this little box, or you can even say it out loud and I'll answer it and we can have a full conversation. Or if you want, I could even give you a quote for your pool project right now. Now,
Wow.
that is going to happen this year. That's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on that now. Alex, this is the future, the way we communicate. Now, some people might say, but that doesn't seem very human at all, Marcus. Oh, hold up. Because look at your options here. The option is you can have a visitor come to your website and they can just read your words and maybe watch a few of your videos. Or they can have an interactive experience with your digital avatar, the person that looks and sounds like you. Or maybe it doesn't sound and look like you, but it's somebody else that is just your digital human that represents your brand, your
Right.
gecko, if you will, whatever that is. And so they have that conversation. Now they are learning from you. They're seeing you. They're hearing your voice, and there's interaction there. It's just like I've had Alexa in my home for I don't know how many years now, and now we talk to Alexa like she's a dang member of the family.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is where we're headed, and there's going to be a lot of people that say I don't like it, but what I know to be true is we can't allow our personal opinions to screw up smart business decisions. And so
Wow.
if it's going to induce more trust, and it will if you do it the right way, and that's the caveat to everything we've talked about here and everything to do with AI, is you got to do it the right way. But if you do it the right way, if you do it the transparent way, if you're honest that, hey, this is a digital human, now you're going to drive more trust and they're going to say, wow, I've never had an experience like that before. And they're going to say things like, it's so funny talking to you now in person. It's literally like I was just talking to you on your website
Right.
and now I'm with you and it feels the same. You're going to hear that.
Right.
You're going to hear that in the future. And so that's where we're headed. And that's going to become a core of becoming a known and trusted brand.
It makes sense. And I really like what you're saying about making a disclaimer that like, hey, this is AI. I'm not going to try to pull the wool over your eyes and pretend like this is actually me
That's
you're
right.
talking to. So how you leverage it is as important as making sure that you're staying ahead of the curve and using these tools to your advantage. Very cool.
Yeah. But you got to get in the sandbox.
That's
you
right.
have to get in the sandbox. And I think, if you look at what we've been talking about here, these 4 pillars, talk about what others aren't willing to talk about. Show what others aren't willing to show. Sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. Be more human than others are willing to be. The big key here, Alex, is what we're saying is don't do it like everyone else in your industry. Be willing to disrupt. We talk at the end of Endless Customers about this call. We essentially give a call to disrupt your industry, to not follow the rules you've been given. In fact, follow your gut, because a lot of the things that I have said today, your listeners have thought, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. I should do that.
It's making a lot of sense to me too. I'm feeling the same way.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so we say in every industry, there's leaders. Leaders tend to get lazy and they stop innovating. Somebody comes in and breaks the rules, and the marketplace likes it. And because the marketplace likes it, the rule breaker now becomes the rule maker, and they become the new leader. And the old leader, they become the follower. And so the beauty of Endless Customers is this is a system that will show you how to become that leader. In fact, at the end of the book, we really break down the steps to implementing that system within your business and what the journey looks like. And the beauty is, if you follow the system, and that's why it's a system, because this way you got a map, okay? If you follow that system, the promise is you'll become a known and trusted brand. And what that means for you is Endless Customers.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground, and this has been an excellent conversation. And I think to just pull this all together, where can people read Endless Customers? How can they learn more about you? This is your chance. Like, I want you to plug and just let everyone know what's going on in your world and how they can learn more. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you need to go. If this has resonated with you at all, make sure you go to endlesscustomers.com. endlesscustomers.com. And what's great about going there instead of going somewhere else is we've got a whole slew of bonuses that you can get if you pre-order the book now. And oh, by the way, if someone is interested, if you've heard this and you're like, man, I want some help with this, of course, we have a team that can help you with that. And so to do that, to learn more about that, just go to impactplus.com. That's impactplus.com.
Marcus, thank you so much for your time. I'm definitely going to be checking out your book. We really appreciate you being on the show today.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, for everybody out there watching and listening, you heard a really great episode. Go check out Endless Customers, the new book at endlesscustomers.com. I'm your host, Alex Winter. You're watching the Endless Customers podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.